But that was one of the great things that Apocalypse illuminated for us, right? Because we utilized that prefab system within Apocalypse, and we saw the downsides of the prefab approach.
Exactly.
And instead, we were able to iterate on that approach for the MMORPG based off of the information we took from Apocalypse.
That is correct.
Talk to us about what that means, because from some players' perspectives, what does prefab mean exactly?
Well, prefab was a way that we collected the assets and put them in, so we can, like, so a house would have all the population in the house. All that stuff had to be sort of contained in a container that then we would use. We would just place the house with all the pre-assets already kind of in place and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
And
so
what didn't work with that? Just so we can kind of.
I mean, it was as far as the development, set up. It would you would save the prefab, and then you'd have to go and resave over the levels. Any prefab that you changed ended up having to manually go through the levels and change all that stuff. It was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
As far as like the way it handled
Not
that,
future-proof
and then
and
and plus there was some other little just annoying little nitpicky things. It just weren't cohesive to doing something on a larger scale.
Yeah. So now walk us through the new process and what you guys are going to be doing with that. And obviously we have some images here to show as well.
Yeah. So anyway, the node system, I mean, the way that now we're using blueprints, and those are the containers, and so we could do a lot more with them because we can actually attach a lot of code to them, and blueprints within blueprints. So it's a lot of kind of embedded sort of assets on top of each other and that kind of thing, but it lets us have a lot more control, be able to swap things out a lot easier, and then we can also add scenarios like the node system stuff. Like when we go through different races, we want to be able to swap the assets that are inside those houses, and so those are containers that contain like specific types of things in them that might be specific to a race or whatever, and then now we have the control to be able to swap those out like in real time as we're, working on, as you're going into a town, we switch the town out, this building switches out, we can switch the stuff into the building.
And it automatically does a lot.
And depending on like maybe wealth levels or something, we can swap things out from like, a lower poverty grade, couch to
gold
something.
Trimmed.
Exactly.
And that can be based off of certain data points that accrue in the back end, kind of showing what's been the total. Did I get brought water?
Yes.
Thank you. How did he know? Who was that?
That was Brian.
That was Brian? I love Brian. Thank you. Sorry, I ran out of water. No, I'm sorry. Going back to, there's a lot of data that gets collected on the status of a node, right? And now we can pull from that data and we can reflect change in real time, as you were saying, kind of demonstrating what the wealth of a city is, what the predominant culture, we already do that, but a lot of different things. And then, as you were saying, kind of implementing the hex grid system. Previously in Alpha 0, we kind of brute forced the way the layout of our node system was. We manually created these templates and location of these nodes, which really wasn't something that could be duplicated for just the vast amount of nodes that will exist in the world. So, great thing about the environment team is, they came up with an approach to kind of answer the call for having such diversity, having all of these, representations that are procedurally as well as, authored to kind of represent the different types of nodes that exist.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be able to control like weight things, to specific things. So if like you got a node that's particular, like a city level or whatever, the town center will be primarily in a certain specific location. Like we could dictate that, and then a lot of the things that are around it sort of are more, randomized. So when they come in, it's like a different layout. And so
they've been really finalizing the feel of each of these.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like with the using blueprints, it's like we're not using two different systems. We got a prefab system that's like kind of different, and then it's like we're keeping it consistent. Everything from prop placement all the way up to structures and the actual hex grid that these things are on are all containers inside of blueprints.
The other great thing about kind of the hex based system and the procedural generation of these types of things is that even though they're procedurally a portion of them is procedurally generated, there are confines and parameters that are allocated to the generation of these types of nodes that fit what the design needs are from a siege perspective, as you said, the centralized location of the city hall, of the the culture of the node as well. I mean, all those things are parameters that are input into the procedural system.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you are going to show kind of a little sneak peek of some animation testing that.
Oh, we about this yet?
No, we didn't talk about these.
I keep asking about it.
Anyway,
so,
all this actually, this isn't really all that
okay,
exciting.
if you have more
all
to
it is
talk
we
about on
took
it.
some of the assets
Yeah.
that we had. These are like more the human assets, and I've sort of bumped them up so they're more detailed. I've been implementing like decals into that, which are we're able to take the walls and stuff and put a lot more detail into them, so it's not just generic or just random. It's added. So there's a lot more detail, a lot more textural.
And these, some people may recognize, the general structure of these types of buildings from their time playing, testing in Apocalypse. But the great thing again about Apocalypse that kind of transitioned into the MMORPG is you took those assets and you kind of defined the ceiling, and it turns out that you could actually put more detail, you could put more, props in there, because from a from an optimization standpoint, from a performance standpoint, there was room.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, like I took like a lot of the beam work was we were kind of playing around with the fantasy thing, and some of the I kind of pushed them back more into a realistic realm where like the beam work wasn't so exaggerated and things like that. So and they're tighter. They're a lot tighter now. So anyway, kind of happy with happy with the way they turned out, and as we're kind of going through the assets, older assets, and and as we're prepping them and putting them into the MMO, we're just kind of taking a pass on them and making sure they're greater, stronger, faster.
Fit up to Bacon's
Stronger, faster.
OCD.
Yeah.
His perfectionism.
Exactly.
He's like, I don't know if I want to show this. I don't know if I want to show this.
Yeah, that's my running thing.
Yeah, that's what he tells me every time. He's like, I don't know if this isn't ready yet. Like,
I like that.
Like I've asked him for like these biome stuff, and he's like, they're not ready yet. So next, he wants
they're almost ready.
He wants to
Next
show
month.
him when he can wow you.
Yeah, next month.
But he does have a little sneak peek of this animation that he was willing to share, kind of showcasing like.
This is just like the bear
plot.
just starting to concept kind of out, like when you want to build something in the world.
Yeah, like a freehold
So this
building.
is basically like
the framework's all coming up and
right. So this will obviously get a little bit more detailed with some effects and maybe even some like NPCs.
Yeah, there's nothing. This is just
the
Wart
construction,
version,
right?
The bare bones,
but to give you guys an idea of where this is starting to go, in the game, whether you're constructing something on your freehold or whether you're participating in a city project for creating a new building within your node, there's going to be obviously stages of development for that particular building that's going to be represented within the game to kind of give this aesthetic of an actual construction occurring, the time that it takes. So, what we're seeing here is the bare bones, obviously, of that, but it's going to have effects, and it's going to have some NPCs, and, you're going to be bringing materials and components to the building, and you're going to see it construct in real time, which is something really cool, because not a lot of games I know have that. I mean, I've seen obviously games like that I played in where they have different stages, but I haven't seen progression from stage to stage. So it's cool, like actual animated progression.
We're still doing stage to stage, but we're having animations in between.
Right, there's a transition between those. There's a blending between those different stages, which is something that's cool.
It's a little sexier just to actually see stuff being constructed.
Absolutely.
It being all static and stuff. So so this is the inklings of the startings of all that.
Yeah.
So yay.
I didn't know you threw this in there.
Oh, sorry.
Cool. No, I like it.
After the meeting, it's like, you're fired.
What Margaret was criticizing you for, I actually, and I like that there's a high, attention to quality.
No, I agreed after he explained to me. I convinced him on this one, but the other one, I agreed.
Oh, you did? You convinced him on that? You didn't want to show this, did you?
Yeah, he didn't want to show this.
This wasn't ready for
it's not ready.
Margaret's like, no.
But I think it's cool to see the progress, and when you show us the final stuff, it's going to be even better. And obviously, I agree with you on the other one that you didn't want to show, because I think you're right. It's going to be really sexy when
What
they
was
see
the
it.
other one?
That was just the terrain, the
terrain
demonstration,
the biome stuff, which we'll talk about.
It's looking really cool, but it's like I want to, there's times where you want, where it's like, this is cool enough, I'll show it, whatever. And then there's other times where it's like, no, if we just hold off just a little bit.
A little bit longer, yeah.
Yeah, then it's much
But now you have pressure, because we talked about
it. Did you Mr. Burns me?
Next up, we've obviously been showing a lot of the different node kind of like feels and vibes for each of the stages. And now we have the Valoon concepts to kind of show you all. And, you know, this is what Bacon was talking about, where he's, you know, they're building up all these different cities and towns and stuff like that, and they're using these tools and the back end of this, moving away from the prefabs. And now you're kind of getting to see the Valoon.
Well, this is, we're doing all the color comps,
Yeah.
you know, to really just bring in the look and feel of all the races and stuff. And so next on the list was the Valoon, the human Valoon.
Okay, we just skipped all the way to the Metropolis.
No, this isn't Metropolis. That's encampment.
That's encampment.
No, the Metropolis is going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking.
No!
Steven
What did
swears.
you say? I was going to say it's huge.
Dude,
It's
I
huge.
was so tempted to just double down.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Oh my God. Oh no.
Awesome, Steven. I love you.
No.
I love you.
This looks,
I would say it's huge.
It's just really,
Yeah.
It's
just,
very
just amp it up.
huge.
Amp
Yeah,
it up.
no.
Just don't hold back. Just go for it.
No.
but I do love like seeing this, you know, this desert, the town and
The desert comp?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the desert
that's
comp. It's very golden.
Oh yeah.
Kind of looking at all.
And
these-
I mean, the Valoon, we really wanted to have these types of warm
Yeah.
color compositions,
there's
right?
definitely
Because
more,
it kind of
absolutely.
represents that culture, you know, traditionally, right? That kind
Yeah,
of
it's a-
Sultan-esque.
Yeah. It's some kind of pastel-y kind of color
Mm-hmm.
schemes and things.
and I like the building cups in this. Like they're very different from the other ones. That
Oh
we've
yeah,
seen,
yeah, for sure.
And then I think we have one more. Yeah.
And that's like village center, and then we have then we start moving into the town.
The other thing I would say, you know, and you
You can
guys
see the town crier kind of calling out here,
Yeah.
getting people to come over.
hear ye, hear ye.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, guys, is like in our experiences as MMORPG players, you know, the MMOs we play don't usually have such a wide array of player character cultures that have to be represented, especially from the standpoint of how each node can represent the full progression from camp to metropolis in each of these different cultures. You know, we may see or experience in a game player character cultures of 4, maybe 5 at max. You know, when you get above 5, we don't really see that usually in the MMOs we've played. I mean, usually that's about max. We have 9 different cultures we have to represent.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the challenge of it is trying to get them to look so diverse.
Yes.
You know, that they just, you know, that
When
they
you
really
look at it, you know,
differentiate
yeah.
themselves. And I think we've been doing a really good job.
And that's why originally when I was kind of like, you know, imagining the inspiration for these 9 different cultures, I rooted that within real world references, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that's, I mean, obviously the best representation you can have in
and
game.
you can relate easily. right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
is something from a real world reference that then you can amplify with fantasy or
Exactly,
amplify,
exactly.
you know, on top of
Yeah.
that.
the grounding. You
Right.
know,
I
kind
love
of a
the
grounding
art. You
foundation.
don't have to sell me on it. I'm in. Take me there.
Yeah, so this is like the town mode where we start getting into cobblestone streets and,
Yeah.
you know, not sidewalk and cobblestone like what you see in the city
They have
level.
some
but-
civilization building
Exactly,
up. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, we're kind of...
But it still keeps that the essence of the
Yeah,
race.
actually, we find it kind of hard, like going from like it gets kind of finite going from like village to town to.
I think there's like
city.
3 major transitions that are
Yeah.
easy to accomplish, but the problem is we have 3 additional.
Yeah.
Like you can go from camp, village, and town, but then getting to like city and metropolis, or
Yeah.
you know, camp to encampment, like those are.
Yeah.
Where's the differentiation?
Exactly. So like so one of the heavy definition or defined elements of like between like a town and a city.
It's like what
you
kind-
know,
what's
it's like
the next
the
stage of
broken
that civilization,
cobblestone
right?
versus
Yeah.
like the full on kind of streets with sidewalks and
Yeah.
foundations that buildings are sitting on and giving it a
And I really
much
think
more structured sort
Where
of.
you guys have found a comfortable blend between those transition periods that might have been difficult is really just kind of amplifying the buildings of that particular stage, you know, so to speak, from village to town or city to metropolis.
Yeah.
Just amplifying, adding volume, you know,
Yeah.
and grandiosity.
Yeah, and a lot of contrast. We're trying to pull a lot of so when you're in the village state, or you're really in village, where it's really run down, and,
Yeah.
and then as it reaches into the city and metropolis level, it's pristine.
And Bacon is a perfectionist. He's like,
But he's also
He's
he's also
things. He's
I don't know if I'm a
he's
perfectionist.
also a realist, though. I
Yeah.
mean, I would
True.
say, the benefit. Here's the thing about game development. I mean, obviously, projects of this size are going to experience delays, and we've had our fair share of delays thus far. But our goal isn't to be perfect. our goal is to have a quality that makes you guys proud and makes us proud,
Yeah.
right? And we can iterate further as we launch and release, and that kind of thing. So I would say
Yeah.
Bacon's really a good realist in that sense.
That's
That's
true.
very realistic.
You do come around quick and make a decision, and then we change things. But I do see like the element of like, this
Well, I
doesn't
mean,
quite
nobody
fit
wants to
with
show
the,
something that, nobody wants, you kind of want it to look right,
Yeah, of course, yeah. And like you said, you have like all these different races that you're really trying to combine in.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I see feedback that you're giving to people, you're like, hey, this doesn't really fit that.
Yeah.
Like the pirate or works.
Well, yeah, that's because we're trying to, we're trying to build these divides where it's like this race does not look like this race, and you really have to differentiate them. And so, you have to kind of put those fire lanes in, saying, no, don't do that.
No,
Hey,
that race does not go over the line here.
It
Got to put the foot down.
Exactly.
And of course, we are definitely going to be over time. So thank you all for hanging out with us. We still have 20 more minutes of questions probably, but we'll see how much Sarah can get through.
Oh my gosh, we're so over
I
time.
know.
Oh, it's crazy.
We have
But
been,
you guys don't
we have been every
mind.
time.
They don't mind.
We have been every time.
They love it, right?
So
No.
not every time, but like
No.
lately we've been going.